Hello everyone, this is SWTOR Snoopy here, back with another video. Today, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the new Onslaught expansion. So I've been playing the expansion for the past couple of days since release, and I want to go over my general thoughts and opinions. In this video, I won't have a set structure, rather I'll be talking about what comes to mind with each new feature in the expansion. I'll be going over multiple aspects, such as the gearing and new operations and etc., but there won't be any spoilers on the story or anything crucial to plots. Anyways, with all that being said, let's jump right into this. Alrighty guys, so here we go. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is of course the story. What did I think of it? Well, I thought it was pretty decent. I know it was pretty short, but I feel like it kind of goes with the saying that it was short and sweet. I liked the storyline, how they're kind of going back to this Republic versus Empire story. Of course, I'm not going to be going over spoilers of the events that take place in this expansion, but I do believe that the way that they have this, I would say this dynamic with their storytelling, I feel like with future expansions, if they continue with this trend, I think they'll be very good. But I like the expansion, at least in the story aspect, for what it gave us. I know, once again, it is very short, and that's obviously going to make people a little annoyed, because I know that some people are expecting something like Knights of the Fallen Empire, Eternal Throne, just a very long, overarching chapter system. And obviously, we don't get that with this story. But I think this expansion is a good example of trying to balance a solid story component, but also trying to include some group content components, such as with like the operation, for example. But yeah, I gotta say, I thought the story was decent. I thought the planets looked really good. You know, Onderon and MacLeod, I think they're very solid. Hopefully, you know, I'll be back there doing some dailies and such. But yeah, once again, I don't want to go into spoiler territory. But I think for what it was, short and sweet, solid overall, and you know, I'll take it. So besides the story, of course, we gotta go over the operation. I love my operations, so I was really hyped for this one right here. Of course, on Duxon. So I didn't do a full run just yet, but from what I've seen, I thought it was pretty good. So I ran some of 16-man with my guild Tragic Heroes. Shout out to them. So they've been clearing it every day, so of course, I'm just going to need to jump into a group at one point and complete the whole entire operation. But for the amount that I did, it reminded me of an uprising in some places where you have a large group of enemies, you're just attacking them and just kind of running through the story fighting these guys. I didn't think it was too bad. I thought it was kind of cool, some of the elements that they've included, such as, I don't know, There's like some cool moments. I don't want to kind of like spoil them for people who haven't done the operation, but I do like some of the mechanics that they added with the bosses, and I also like how there's like a different dynamic. At least with the normal operations, you have trash mobs, you fight all the trash mobs, you go to the boss and rinse and repeat. But I like that this, at least there's an encounter that isn't really a boss fight. It's more of just like a run and gun type deal. But I thought some aspects such as that were pretty cool. I know that they have like some puzzle elements as well in this operation, which I thought were a welcome addition. I know that some people will not like that whatsoever, but personally with me, I thought it was a cool little, I guess, kind of like a refreshing take on operations. And then of course, you know, the bosses have some cool mechanics and such. So overall, I gotta say, with what I've seen, I thought the operation was pretty solid. But I do have to get a full run in, take down that Apex Vanguard, and of course just see, you know, the good old conclusion to the raid. But with all that being said, with the talk of group content, we do have to move on to the Flashpoint. Now, of course, the Flashpoint with this expansion does go with the story, and I think that as a standalone adventure, something that you'll do in the group finder, it's not really anything, anything to write home about, at least in my opinion. I kind of categorize it with the flashpoint such as the Anathema Conspiracy, just because, once again, a story type flashpoint, but, you know, I feel like maybe in a couple runs you just continue to run this new flashpoint that it will start to, like build on you. You'll really start to like it. But at least with the run through that I did throughout the story, I don't know, I felt like it was decent for what it was trying to accomplish with the story, but personally, I don't know if I would like it as a just standalone flashpoint. I haven't ran it, once again, I mean, I've only really ran it once with the story, so I can't give a full, obvious, like, little review here, as of course with this discussion, it's just kind of my thoughts. But I think if I ran it a couple times, I would like it more, but currently as it is, I don't think it's just good as a standalone flashpoint. So now we gotta talk about probably the biggest thing that everyone is discussing with this expansion, and that is, of course, the gearing. So I like the gearing a lot. I won't even lie, I do like this gearing system quite a bit. So the vertical progression of equipping better gear and slowly becoming more powerful is pretty fun in my opinion. I like this idea of you start with some really bad gear, you just have to continue to build upon that and just progressively get stronger. I think that's a cool, simple system in that you can just continue to work your way up and then become very powerful. I do like that type of idea. I don't really like the RNG elements that are attached with the amplifier system too much. I do think that is a little of an annoyance, not gonna lie. I haven't really dealt with it too much since I'm not in the max level 306 gear. But I know when I eventually get to that point that I feel like it could end up becoming a bit of a nuisance. So that's one thing that I didn't like too much. But I think overall, it's kind of a cool dynamic where you have the vertical progression and then you go to the horizontal progression where you have your max gear rated. You have your max gear and then you just need to start to optimize by continuing to run certain operations, flashpoints, PvP, etc. I think that's pretty solid. I think it is definitely adding a cool dynamic to the game. And of course it's alt friendly. I know that a lot of people are excited about that. Now, I'm personally excited about it because I like gearing my other characters for PvP, and this is definitely going to help out quite a bit. One thing I do know people have been complaining about with the gearing, however, has been the fact that certain aspects such as PvP do get kind of shafted because you can just run a certain flashpoint over and over and over again and then just get max level gear very quickly. So I can understand why people are a little disappointed in that regard, since I know a lot of people just want to run a certain type of content in their certain way to get the max level gear, but then there's other optimal ways to do so. But I know personally I haven't been just farming the same flashpoint constantly to get the best gear. I've been kind of going at my own pace, doing operations and such, but I've been having a pretty fun time with it, and I think it's a solid gearing system. So besides that, I want to touch upon something that I know people have been talking about, but it hasn't been really associated too much with the expansion, and that is the difficulty. Now, I know that people have been talking about this on the forums, Reddit, and such, but I haven't seen people just mainly talking about how it's kind of included in this expansion itself, just when they talk about, kind of discussing the expansion. I know a lot of people don't really just mention this in videos and things, but I think that the game seems harder in certain places, and I'm not just talking about gear. I know that there was a pretty big companion nerf, and we have the gearing process. We have to start all over, so of course we're going to have to run into some issues. We aren't going to be crazy OP juggernauts, but I think that the game overall seems a tad bit harder. I'm okay with it personally, and I like that there's some increased difficulty in places, but I can of course understand if players are irritated about it. I know that some players have said that some things are overtuned with how the level sync has kind of been reworked. I know there's been a lot of posts about, I don't know, I haven't seen it personally, so I might be wrong on this, but I know that some people have said like there's issues with like walkers in like the Eternal Throne story, and how some things are like really overtuned and you die super fast. But once again, I haven't seen too much of that. I just know that it seems like some of the aspects of the game are harder, and I'm personally okay with that. I do like when the content becomes more challenging, but of course I can understand if people are a little turned off by that. And then the last thing I'm going to quickly talk about is the bugs. So I haven't experienced really any bugs that I know of with this expansion, but I am quite aware that there's quite a few issues with certain things. Of course, these will be fixed eventually, but I of course do have to mention it that there's bugs that are causing issues with like progression in playing the game. Hopefully that is eventually fixed. I haven't personally experienced it, but of course I do want to include that since, bugs are bad and of course they gotta be mentioned. I know that there's other aspects of the expansion such as crafting, but those are a couple things I kind of wanted to run down with this Onslaught expansion. I know I've just been I know once again that I didn't cover all the aspects, but I think personally for the things that I've looked at, these are kind of my thoughts and opinions on the expansion. So overall, I think the expansion was very solid. I don't think it's anything revolutionary, so to speak, but I think what was added was very good. So I don't want to say this is a review. Once again, these are just kind of my thoughts that I've had throughout playing the expansion and all the aspects to it. I, of course, would like to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. So if you guys have any thoughts or opinions, or maybe you disagree with some of the things I said about the expansion, I would love to hear it. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one.